Dan Illman, Matt Birney are taking a look at race number 10 at Santa Anita on Saturday. It's the granddaddy of them all, the Grade 1 Big Cap, the Santa Anita Handicap at 1.25 miles, carded as race number 10. Get involved at Santa Anita on Santa Anita Derby Saturday, and get involved early because you have your first post bonus on the preps with your DRF Bets account. Bet $25 to win on any one horse in race number 1 at Santa Anita, at Keeneland, and/or Aqueduct, and get a $10 bonus win or lose. DRF.com/preps is where you need to go for all of the details. Let's take a look at the field for the Santa Anita Handicap. Maybe no Seabiscuits in this race, Matt, but we do have McKinsey at 4-5 for the familiar combination of Bob Baffert and Mike Smith. And this is doubtlessly a talented horse, a Grade 1 winner at 7 furlongs, a Grade 1 winner at 1 1/16, a Grade 1 winner at 1 1/8. I'm a little concerned about the 1 1/4. Are you?
Oh, terrified of it. To be honest with you, I didn't know if he would get really 1 1/8 or if that's his best distance. And we kind of saw what happened most recently. Obviously, it's unfortunate what happened with Battle of Midway, but Battle of Midway was a horse that even at 1 1/8 that was probably pushing it a little bit, and he seemed to see it out better than McKinsey did. So I think McKinsey's like hands down. It's not even remotely close, in my opinion, that he's the most talented horse in the race. But at 4-5, likely to be shorter than that come post time. At 1 1/4, I just, he's the kind of horse that if he were to win this race, I would just tip my cap and say, okay, Baffert and Smith, they did it again. But I don't love this horse as distances get longer.
I tend to agree. I agree with Smith and Baffert, however, that the last trip wasn't exactly ideal, sort of in between horses, prompting the pace, eventually taking over the lead, and then Battle of Midway on his outside, fighting him hard down to the wire. McKinsey's got a little bit of spunk to him. He swishes his tail when he's in a dogfight, but maybe he didn't care for that sealed, sloppy track. His Malibu win, albeit at 7 furlongs, was a sensational effort coming from off the pace. Matt, I'm curious to see your opinion and hear your opinion on where McKinsey's going to be placed in the early portion of this race, because Timeform US has a bit of a lineup on the front end with McKinsey, the Speedy Prime Attraction, Gift Box. I'm not sure how this is going to play out. There's a long run to the first turn going 1 1/4 at Santa Anita. I could see Mike Smith on McKinsey conceding the lead to Prime Attraction, trying to get to the outside and maybe avoiding a protracted duel at a distance that may worry him.
Yeah, I agree with that. And again, we've seen Prime Attraction forwardly placed in the past. I've liked him, and I still like him. I think he's a nice horse. He's just a little bit of a goofball. But whenever he's out there on the lead, it's not as though he's out there cutting out wicked fractions. And there's a part of me that just looks at it and says, if you're on McKinsey and you think he's the best horse, do you really want to try to rate, sit the pocket? You might get hemmed in. Maybe you don't get the cleanest trip. And, if you wanted to say that that was the reason last time out that you didn't love things, that, maybe being between horses wasn't ideal. Well, guess what? There's one way to avoid that. Just go. I think you send him if you think you're on the best horse.
The number 4 Gift Box is the second choice on the morning line. Always had talent when trained by Chad Brown. Third in the Remsen is a 2-year-old, well-beaten 4th in Arrogates Travers. Ran some nice Beyer speed figures at Aqueduct towards the end of 2017 into 2018, but just never could really grab the brass ring and become a top handicap horse until he was privately purchased, sent to John Sadler in Southern California, and whammo! Off a long layoff, he beat Battle of Midway, who came back to beat McKinsey. Giftbox got a nice trip in winning that San Antonio, and I question him at 1 1/4 as well, but I think another good trip is coming.
Yeah, I agree with that. Whether you think Prime Attraction's on the front or you think McKinsey's on the front, they're both going to be forwardly placed, and at that point, Giftbox probably takes up the ideal stalking position. You brought up the distance thing, though, and that's kind of what's sticking with me about both of the short-priced favorites in here. I don't love either of them at 1 1/4. So, look, it's entirely possible it's just a complete stagger fest down the lane and there's not any running going on behind them. If that's the case, whatever. It is what it is. You're going to be right, you're going to be wrong sometimes. I don't want to take short prices on horses that I have very little faith in their ability to see out the distance.
Mongolian Groom is going the right way from a Beyer speed figure standpoint. The number 2 earning a 93 Beyer most recently. And I thought he ran well to earn it. It's just that he's going to have to run a lot better to beat the likes of McKinsey and a Gift Box or even a Prime Attraction. And this is a little bit of a stretch from a distance standpoint as well.
I was going to say, he's the kind of horse that you're looking at it a number of ways, saying not only do you need to improve from a figure standpoint, but you also need to prove the distance isn't an issue.
Prince of Arabia isn't going to have a problem with the distance. He is going to be hoping for a hot and contested pace up front because he is basically a one-run closer. They tried turf with him last time out. It didn't work out his first race without Lasix. He's sort of an in and outer. He's actually, I think, a little bit better on a wet track. I actually think he's one of these kind of horses that if you ever got him out of Southern California, got him to the deeper racetracks on the East Coast, he would thrive.
I was going to say, I mean, unfortunately, with these horses that come from so far back in Southern California, just the main tracks are not conducive to those running styles for the most part. Now, look, again, perhaps this is going to be just a stamina test. If that's the case, I think Prince of Arabia's got a big chance.
Let's take a look at our top picks in this race. We respect the favorites, but I think you made a pretty good point. Why would you want to take short prices if you have question marks? Let's talk about the number 6, Campaign. There is no question mark about the distance for Campaign. Heck, he's already won at 10.5 furlongs on the turf. And his most recent race, his first start for John Sadler, similarly to Gift Box, I thought that was a nice performance. He did get a hot pace to win that day, but it was nice to see the runner-up Nero return and score with a 95 Beyer.
You know, really, again, if you couldn't tell by the way that we've gone through these horses and what I've been saying, I just don't have the faith in many of these horses at 10 furlongs. I know Campaign can see that out the distance. Who knows what his best surface is? I think it's probably grass as opposed to the main track, but this is a short field. Depending on how you think the pace scenario plays out, if you believe the pace projector, I don't think any of these horses are really out of it, especially if you think that they're going to go fast early. And I have to be honest with you, I really liked his first 2 turf races going really long last year. Now, unfortunately, the Sycamore, something clearly went wrong. He was gone for a long time. I think this is a decent horse, and I think this is just an interesting position where, you know what, it's a short field, it's a big purse. If you think that the main players have distance limitations, take a chance with a horse that you know can see out the distance.
I hate the layoff, but I think if ever Prime Attraction is going to win a big prize, it's going to be in a race like this. I mean, heck, he chased Accelerate 5 times in a row from the end of 2017 all the way through the Awesome Again of 2018. Then he ran in the Fayette. He caught a muddy track. He ran well. He just caught another hot horse in Brad Cox's Leofric. And we've talked about his antics. He's goofy with his lead changes. He was perfect last time out in the Clark Handicap. He went to the front. He just wasn't good enough that day. But he finished directly behind Seeking the Soul, who came back to run second in the Pegasus World Cup, pardon me, with a 103 Beyer. If I'm Kent Desormeaux, I just go and hope that these other two maybe are watching each other and not paying attention to Prime Attraction, because he has shown quality in the past.
Yeah, I mean, he's become a bit of a pet of mine, and I think I can speak for you as well. We like the horse. He just, you know, he's got his quirks. You know, it is what it is, and sometimes he can get the job done, other times he can't. I kind of agree with you. Look, from a perfect storm standpoint, this might be it. He might be able to go out there if McKinsey and company, they're content on trying to take off and sit off of a target. You may have an uncontested lead at 1.25 miles. Now, perhaps the distance isn't ideal for him, but I think he can get it. I got to be honest with you. I'm not going to fault anyone that looks at it and says now is the time for Prime Attraction.
But you're going with Campaign, 15-1 on the morning line, lightly raced, upside potential. Give me numbers.
6-4-1.
I'm going to hope Prime Attraction can take him gate to wire in the big cap. I'm going 3-1-4-2. Race number 10 at Santa Anita on Saturday. Bet race number 1 at Santa Anita on Saturday, or at Aqueduct, or at Keeneland. You'll be rewarded with a first post bonus. Bet $25 to win on 1 horse in race number 1 at any of those 3 tracks. Get a $10 bonus, win or lose. DRF bets, ready, set, bet. Approximate post time for the big cap, 5:20 Pacific. Best of luck.